All right, let's tie my rendition of the Gurgler. I tie it a little bit different than I've seen a lot of places or a lot of people. I try and be pretty minimalistic with it. I've found that with top waters, flotation is more important than the looks. I tie on a B10S. I don't remember the size. Maybe a 6. I'll find out one day when my fly shop gets them back in stock, but I lost the packaging. Got a couple left. I usually run red thread because I've gotten lazy. You can do a color to match, your body, and then switch to red for the head. I like a red head on my top waters because, well, that's what all the bass guys have on their stuff. So who am I to argue? I've always tied in white for all of my Gurglers. I don't really know why, but it's what I've always done. And I have misplaced the bucktail. Guess we'll crack open the new one. I usually go pretty long on the fibers first. Before we forget, lock it down. It's kind of I like to think of this as like a workhorse fly. It catches a lot of fish before it disintegrates, and keeps catching fish even when it's ugly. So treat her as so. She don't care what she looks like. She's like a fat girl at prom. Just happy to be here. So when I tie this fly, I like to think of it as viewed from below at the surface of the water. Not really trying to create a particular shape, more trying to achieve the illusion of movement. So for the tail, I try and tie with fibers like bucktail and this crystal flash. 3 strands will usually do the trick. I want it to look like it's moving, and the crinkliness of the bucktail and the crinkliness of this kind of gives it that illusion. And I just tie it right there on the top. Right over top. You can add more or less. I think a lot of times I do add more, but we're going to say 3 is the right number today. And with the tail, with the bucktail, I like to be pretty sparse. I take a pretty large clump like this, hold it about halfway down, and pull these little guard hairs out. They don't add anything to it. They just add bulk and weight, makes it harder to cast, makes it less buoyant. Bucktail does have a little bit of buoyancy, but it winds up soaking up the water and losing that buoyancy. You can add some gink or something, but I don't think it really matters. And then just kind of look at it, and if there's any that are extra long, peel them out. But you really don't need a whole lot. Like I said, you're creating the illusion of movement, and I want a good tapered look, so I'll pull out, because a lot of them we've taken a lot of the short ones out. I'll pull a couple of the long ones out just to give that bit of a taper. And I'll roughly go, let's call it like 2.5 to 3 times the length of the hook. Somewhere in there. You can go shorter or longer. Whatever makes you happy. Come over it. Give it a good cinch down here. And then you're basically wrapping with virtually no tension on it. To about here. And then come back. That way they stay together. They're somewhat hollow, kind of like a sponge on the inside. And so whenever you cinch down on it, they flare out real bad. And I don't personally like that look. I like that tapered, like a bit of a tapered tail, to be fat. And I got a couple that are poking out, so I'll come in here and get you a little bit of slack and just wrap it back in there. Something like that. Doesn't really matter. I usually trim the flash a little bit long and kind of taper it out too. You don't want them all. You don't want it just flat. That should do it. And then I buy nothing but the good stuff. This, I don't know, 99-cent bottle or $2 bottle of nail polish. I don't know how true it is. I used to use super glue, and I'd always stick my fingers together with it, but I've been told that super glue dissolves in salt water. I don't know if it's true or not, so that's what I use. And I use some cactus chenille in medium. A lot of times I'll use large, but I'm out. Actually, I may not be. Call me a liar. For the bigger ones, bigger Gurglers, I like a little bit more flash, or a little bit longer fibers in the flash. Pushes a little bit more water, and then I'll take, to make it easier to tie in, pull some of it out. So you've got that little bit. It won't create such a large ramp. And I think I'm actually doing that backwards. Do the foam next. I don't think it really matters, but I go just a little bit bigger than the gap of the hook, or hook top to bottom. And I'll take it. You've got this little bit of a taper. I usually tie it in, call it about there, right before that taper ends. I think I have found that I don't know how to describe it. It kind of creates like a jet with that little bit of a what do you call it? That little bit of a, I don't know, curvature. I don't know. It's something. It's there. My story. Sticking to it. But this here, I like to get this nice and flat. Try and keep it on the top of the hook. It doesn't have to be pretty. Just can't go nowhere. And then take this here. package of schlopping, but any little white feather will work. I've done it with dry fly hackle when I'm in a pinch. These are really kind of a bit ugly and dingy, but they should work. Measure it by just wrapping it over. See it splay. Cut that. And now for the next 3 weeks I will have chicken feather in my nose. But they don't test for that at work. I like to tie in from the skinny end. I like it to be skinny. I like a taper in my flies. I like it to be fat at the front, especially flies like this, you know, topwater flies, really any bass or redfish fly. I like that water pushing. Don't know if it makes any real difference, but that's what I like. And this is Burger King. Have it your way. That's why we got into tying flies, wasn't it? Have it your way. All this will get covered, so it doesn't actually matter, but so from here what I'll do is pull all these fibers back, sandwich these together. This feather might have been a bit big, but that seems to be the theme with this particular Gurgler. Then take some hemostats, which is the poor man's what do they call it, a dubbing spinner, or hell, I don't know. It doesn't have to get spun tight, just give it a couple of wraps. This will keep that stem of the feather, if or when it does break. If you get onto some good fish, it will break at some point. It'll be captured by the chenille's fiber, but just a couple of wraps. Don't overdo it, otherwise it'll be a really bulky fly. And just kind of pull it back. It'll be butt ass ugly right now, but kind of come around with it, keep it pulled back. You can always trim it up if it's too big and nasty and buggy, which looks like this one likely is going to be. Watch that hook point. You don't want them too tight on top of each other, or you will impede that hook set. You don't want to crowd the hook either, or you will wind up not being able to tie anything on. Keep it held there. Come in and snip it out. Get it good and tied in there. Try not to make too big of a head there. Really, I should have tried to make it a little less big, but I'm not worried about it. But get that hair parted. I'm do another little dab of super glue, because if that wrap comes loose, then you just throw the fly away. But just a little bit, just to keep it, in case a tooth does happen to somehow hit that little spot, you don't cry. Give it a little curve. Keep all those fibers back. Give it a loose, give it a little cinch. Cinch it down. It's gonna want to curve on you. And just give it a handful. And this builds it up a little bit ahead to keep that bill up. And that should do it. Whip finish. Now to start with, just give it a rough cut with a not piece of shit scissors. Come in here. I like a smaller head than I've seen a lot of people trim to. Just kind of round it out. I usually hold it for this, but I'm trying to show it, which likely isn't coming out. But just round it out, come down here and give it a pretty rough haircut. It doesn't matter. It does not have to be pretty. It just has to work. Like I said, I like that taper. I like it to be short at the front and get bigger the further back you come. I'll pull that back. And I'll hit that with the Sharpie. And get as wild with this as you want. Probably doesn't make any difference at all. That Sharpie's going to wear away, so if you get a little bit somewhere you don't want it to be, catch a couple fish and it'll disappear. And there you go. Big O ugly topwater streamer. And when you think about it, how it looks, just imagine it on the surface of the water. You know, that surface tension spreads everything out. Just kind of looks like, you know, little fins here and the tail moving around back there, and then it moves. But there you go. There's your little Gurgler.